Hankel has been nigh unstoppable, but not perfect. If there ever was a track that could offer someone a shot to topple him, it'd be the legendary Nürburgring. Let's find out who can conquer the ultimate road course as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. There's lots to go over here, so quickly, let's head to our track guide and get introduced to this behemoth circuit. Welcome to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff, there's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as fluke lots, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect. It's kind of a divisive track, but I mean, it truly is a test, Joey.
A huge test, if you might say, a final, if you will, the Nürburgring. And this is that incredibly long layout that includes the GP track as well. You see 16.12 miles, first opened way back in 1927. And so many turns that I get lost after the first handful around this place. You really are driving this racetrack. You are going to have to race your competitors around it, but it's just an accomplishment in itself to be able to complete today's race. Stay off of the curbs with these Lotus 79 cars. They're incredibly low slung and use those aerodynamics. So if you upset the platform on either an apex curb or an exit curb, you could be in for a wild ride straight into one of those guardrails. And of course, the Nürburgring, always known for its elevation throughout this place. I'd mentioned the aero. It sucks the cars down pretty good, but you also have to be worried about bottoming out the cars in some of those areas. So if you see a couple alternate lines, that might be what these drivers are doing, just trying to avoid any damage on the underside of these cars.
Certainly going to be a big factor in this one. And if we take a glance at the championship, as I mentioned, Andreas Henkel's been kind of running away with things, but I do not see him signed into this session. So we won't know if someone could use this track to get ahead of him. Pauli Partanen is the one who has been chasing, and he is here today. So now is a good chance to try and play catch up. Although remember, drop weeks are a thing here. So Andreas will be able to use this to his advantage and not lose too much in the process. Mikko Leno in a fight with Michael de Turk, who's not a fan, shall we say, of this circuit. So we'll see how he fares, if he can keep up the consistency and manage to stay in these top 5 in the points with a 1-point difference between Frisha and Hisada. Boy, Togo here is going to be fun to watch because he tends to be a wild man out in any car that he hops into. But that's just the F1 standings. Let's take a glance at the F2 standings as well.
Yeah, just separated by the driver's iRating, and right now these two drivers are kind of starting to run away with it. Mike Christopher Jr., you see, has got a 30-point lead over second place. It's Ryan Turcotte, and he himself has a call it a 41-point lead over that third-place driver of Josephine Becker, but that's where the things start to close in a little bit. You see, call it only a handful of points separating Josephine with Matthew Cockram, Philip Kuhnhart, Juan Mi is also in there, as well as Thomas Silbernagel. Things don't spread out very far for the remaining three inside the top 10 as well. Summer, Jesse, and Walsh all included in that battle.
And then we also have the Classic Teams Championship that they often will vie for and have for many years in the Lotus 79s. McLaren currently at the top over Parmalat, Nico Leno and David Tomaski versus Gernot Friese and Russell Hamilton. They've been running away from everything. You can see it's a big gap down to third with Warsteiner. Arrows with Ligier Gitanes. They're chasing them in fourth. From there, you get another big jump where Ferrari's a bit far behind, if we're honest. And then you get a close battle for 6th and 7th. Walter Wolf Racing and TVR Racing separated by a single point. Today could make a big difference in that one. But Joey, why don't you run us down the race details for today?
We're over halfway here in the season at the Nürburgring, so we're doing round number 7 of 12. Only going to be doing 5 laps around this huge 16-mile racetrack. An open setup, as it always is here in the Lotus 79s. And folks, if you see the posts on Reddit, go join the Discord. There is a huge amount of influx of drivers right now. I think we saw 113 entries here today for the Nürburgring. So everybody is loving this new tire, loving this new car. So come get the fast stuff and join us out here on the racetrack. No spare car, so you're going to have to live with any damage. We were talking with Michael DeTurk and said there's a couple little danger areas that you got to avoid bottoming out the car. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points and a disqualification at 25 incident points. I don't think I've seen an open-wheel car survive to live that long, Joe. We'll see if it'll happen today.
Yeah, especially not at this track. Incident points, probably not the worry for most of them, although it is the Gesamtstrecke version, so they do have some paved runoff in a small portion of the track, but it is very small in relative terms. They do it a little bit differently here on iRacing. Normally, the qualifying session is attached to each race, but here it's so long to get around the track, they have it as a separate session that you could do before you log in to race. So right now, they are only in the warm-up, and they've only got about a minute left with nobody having set a time in this warm-up since it does take so long. That's the other thing that is kind of unique here, Joey, is this circuit, even normally is hard to get around during warm-up to set a lap, but this is the Gesamtstrecke version, so we're talking 15-plus miles just for a single lap.
Yeah, I would definitely get lost. You know, I've never been to the Nürburgring in person. I know that you have, Joe, and I'm sure that was an extremely wonderful experience to kind of go and see what this place is, but we were talking pre-race that if you only really know it in the sim, it can be a doozy of a racetrack that's really based off of memorization and really knowing how fast each one of the rolling speeds is through each one of these corners. And this is one of the coolest parts of the racetrack that we ride on board Jacob Reed. If you ask me, Joe, this corner that he's coming up to right here, I believe it's called Bravery, right here, man, the cars are hauling through there.
And I didn't hear a lift for Jacob Reed, so yeah. Drivers who go side by side will need to live up to its name. You can see just how narrow it is on this circuit as he tries to line up some of these corners, some awkward braking zones all throughout. Certainly going to be fascinating to witness. So it looks like warm-up is just about over, so we'll be heading to the grid momentarily. We don't even know what the grid is going to be here until they get to this session that's switching over. And with a literally full field for our split, 38 drivers, sees Pauli Partanen starting on the pole position for today's race. Juho Raina will be in P2 with Oye Zamaloa starting in the third position. From there, Jacob Reed will begin in P4. Ross Banfield will start in 5th, and Kimmo Viekainen in the 6th spot. JD Rodriguez, P7 for him, flanked by Mikko Laino. Nick Tisson returns starting 9th, and Toko Hisada will begin from 10th position.
Across the page is the number 38 of Don Decker, starting in 11th. Gurna Frisha starting in 12th place with Michael de Turk back here in 13th. Scott Xavier Sanchez in 14th, lined up right there next to him. Olivier Verhagen in 15th with Connor Tolman 16th. Ove Trengrade 17th. Manuel Perez in 18th. Karthik Pai 19th. And Luke Resputic in 20th.
Christoph Olenek will be 21st, but it looks like they're already gridded and ready to go. So we'll get to the start here as there's the rest of your field. And the green flag is out as they take off down towards the Yokohama S here, looking for that brake zone as they come in. Excuse me, it's the Howell Cook hairpin in this version as, they're getting all kinds of chunked up in there, but it looks like nobody's hit each other so far in the group at the start. They now head into the Mercedes arena, but coming off the corner, I see 2 cars off.
I was pretty impressed with the lunge from Kimmo Viilakainen. That's that white car with the purple highlights down there in turn number 1. It looks like he's trying to still work that inside line there. He's right next to, I believe, Ross Banfield. No contact from the first handful of cars. You see 3 wide. I believe that was Rodriguez trying to force the Ferraman car around into the grass now.
Tries to find an opening to get back. Looks like he'll cleanly return to the circuit, but he'll fall all the way down to 25th. Track position is so important at this track. He'll have a heck of a time finding his way back to just where he began in this race. So already we're seeing Jacob Reed gaining 1 at the start. Mikko Leno as well, but Parton and Reina as well as Banfield, Viikainen still remain where they started as they get close to the end of the GP circuit.
Like you were saying, this is still that GP circuit, so if you race the Nürburgring, you might be familiar with these next handful of turns, and then all of a sudden, everything starts to unravel, at least for me, because I can always practice those first handful of corners once we get into the Nordschleife, but after that, once we start going down the hill and up and over the jump, I start getting a little lost. Kimmo Viilakainen still looking for the inside. I believe that was Nick Thyssen having a little bit of problem on that corner exit curve.
Loses valuable spots just before he gets to the Nordschleife portion of the lap. You can see him trying his best to slot in. He'll get in there behind Michael de Turk. Togo Hisada also behind him. This is the Nordschleife portion we were talking about, the more well-known part of the track, but also narrow, less modernized version of the circuit. These curbs are very tall, as Joey mentioned, so you do not want to climb them.
There was a few drivers kind of picking and choosing which curbs they wanted to take it, but you notice it was all those small apex curves up and over a couple of these crests here, and then this jump right here with all the downforce, a non-issue in these Lotus 79 cars. They're pretty much vacuumed down to the ground.
Partonen's managed to pull away by half a second, but I don't think that's going to allow him to run away. This group, though, look at this. Ross Banfield making a move on Zamaloa. Is he going to be able to get by? No, but he manages to hold side by side through the Swedish cross and down into Ehrenberg. He'll take the position.
And now Kimmo Viilakainen's got that run on Oye going down the hill here, but I don't think that there's really any room to go side by side as you see the track kind of weaves back and forth, left, right, hit that giant compression, get on the brakes as you come up and over the crest of this hill. What was 170 miles going down is only about 55 miles an hour minimum speed through here.
And for these drivers in iRacing, there is no full course caution or regional caution as they have in the real world to deal with problems happening on the track. So if there is some sort of issue, you can come in a bit blind and not realize that there is a major pileup. In fact, I think we just may have had one a little bit farther down the order. It is extremely dangerous on the first lap.
Yeah, we did have a pileup. This is a replay of the initial start here. So this is in turn 1. Let's watch the number 25 car of Parigi here. Just gets loose to the inside all by himself on those cold tires. See a few cars, probably call it a handful of cars involved in that one in what is turn 2. The other one that I saw back here, I believe it was Radislav Zukowski. It was through that section coming up after the hill, a big-time accident involving another handful of cars.
A bit of a shame, but glad there was many who kept a good heads up in that situation. Mikko Leno still sitting here in 7th as Kimmo Viilakainen ahead of him is starting to feel a little bit of pressure now. This is one of the longest straights that you've got but it's all uphill here. This is going through Kesselchen.
And crucially, you see this all-white car here of Oye, the number 3. Remember, he was passed by Banfield, just call it a sector ago, even though that could be a lap at some of these places. And now using that slipstream going up the hill, this is going to be a little bit of a tense moment, but Oye's got the racing line, and he claims the position back up to 4th.
Expect these, well, I call them straightaways, but long flat-out portions is more accurate to be the places where passes are going to be attempted and actually done, as the rest of the circuit really doesn't offer many good places you can outbrake someone, and especially not here, coming through the infamous carousel, single file around the banking.
Got to be careful not to get spit out of that carousel. You really got to make sure to slow down the car enough, because even just 1 or 2 miles an hour will definitely spit you right out. Now, this is the accident that I was talking about right at the top of the hill, and you see pretty much cars blocking the track. JD Rodriguez was in that one after his self-spin, and one of those cars spinning around on its roll hoop.
I wonder if that was Summer that we saw. So that was the car that was highlighted. Jacob Reed in a bit of a battle now. He's trying to catch up to Juho Rainer, who's trying to keep up with Pauli Partsinen. So this is for the lead up at the front of the field. Remember, those long flat-out portions are where the drivers will try and use that slipstream to overtake one another. So Pauli is desperately trying to shake them.
You saw the number 11 car. That's the second-place car here, the cream and call it burgundy of Juho Rainer. He was just really trying to get on the throttle, and those rear tires kind of broke traction for a little bit of an instant. There's quite a wide variety of car setups that are used here at the Nürburgring. I think kind of the safest way is crank in the downforce, right? So you got the confidence and you can place the car wherever you want to. But let me tell you what, when you get to that Dottinger Hoa straightaway, you're going to be a sitting duck.
Yeah, cream and burgundy seems like a very fitting color for a 70s car, honestly.
Totally.
As they come out of the mini carousel now, second little single file banking that you've got, and this is that crucial corner. It's called Gallows Hill, and it can hang you if you find yourself not getting the exit you need, because the Dottinger Hoa is all foot to the floor for more than a mile.
You saw kind of the tail hanging out from that second place car during the back half of that final corner. Loose is fast out here, and now it is just that slipstream. Jacob Reed all the way tucked up in it, about 288 kilometers an hour, 178 miles an hour is what he's doing, just riding off of that aero limit, just trying to close it in, slowly getting in on that root beer float car of Juho Rainer directly in front of him.
It's a great description of it, but now They have to slow down coming up to Tiergarten and into Hohenron, which leads right back onto the GP circuit. Good run here, honestly, from Jacob Reed. He could have an excellent chance coming down to the hairpin at the start of the lap. Let's see if he tries to take it. You want to try and make your passes maybe here through the GP course, but no, he can't quite make it there.
Well, and just kind of judging on how little he was able to close in, as it looks like the dueling liveries of De Turk and Hisada are kind of arguing it out over turn number 1 right here. Michael De Turk is still that lead car of the twins right now, so Togo Hisada is going to have to kind of duck back in. Togo's that number 7 car, while Michael is the number 15, leading their way through this GP circuit for the second time.
Trying to see, and I don't see Don Decker anywhere in our stat sheet, which I know is accurate and up to date, as it just happened today. Thanks, Michael. So this is a newcomer who's clearly fast, because he's working on a top 10 here in top split of 3. Oh, here we go. Nico Leno and Kimo Viekainen side by side down through the Dunlop hairpin, but the battle carries on into the Schumacher S. Anybody going to give way? Oh, big bobble there from Mikko, and he has to give up the ghost.
That was very, very close between the rear axle of Viekainen in the purple car and the front axle of Leno there in that red and white car going through that fast, high-speed chicane. I will say that Kimo had an excellent start to this race, really kind of took advantage of everybody on the cold tires. But remember, I talked about the differing setups. I wonder if he just doesn't quite have the ultimate speed in the car once everything gets warmed up. You got to remember that it's not always just the practice laps, that first lap, that you got to base the setup off of. You really have to drive into the tire wear phase to know how this car is going to react.
And I'm sure some are thinking it's only one lap. Are they experiencing tire wear? Yeah, they're 16 miles into this one. Oh, Pilatek unfortunately discovers the dangers of those curbs, and he'll smack the wall. Looks like he should be able to get it turned back around and going, as I don't think that was race-ending damage.
Jump back to this Leno versus Villakainen battle, and because they were actually side by side, I think it was Michael de Turk that's kind of closed back in on him. He was about 2 seconds back, but because of some alternate racing lines between the two trying to scrap for that position, it's actually closed de Turk back into about 1.5 seconds. And now here we go. This is exciting stuff. Mikko Leno to the outside, driver's right. That's going to set him up very nicely if he can hang tough right here through this fast left-hander. 175 miles an hour, neither driver lifting, and now Villakainen drives it deep into the brake zone. Mikko Leno's going to make it a drag race going down the hill.
Oh, I've really got to get it single file now. This is a tough place to be side by side. Mikko finally slams the door shut. That was incredibly gutsy stuff from both of them. And again, neither seemed willing to give way. It is so hard to pass at times around here. Oh, big slide, though, as we ride on board with Mikko. It looks like he's got that car really trimmed out.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is I think that just maybe through this Nordschleife section, this red and white car might just have the handle a little bit better than what Villakainen does. And quite honestly, they could be on the same setup. This racetrack is just so difficult. You really have to know this place by heart on every single corner to extract all that speed.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the fastest drivers almost become specialists. I shouldn't say almost. They do become specialists at this track. And it sees high attendance just because of that here on iRacing, as there are those who devote their time to this track rather than a specific car. This is getting to be a fascinating battle between Juho and Jacob, coming back up past X-Mula. They got to be careful, though. Pauli Partanen almost a full second ahead. I want to say it's probably about a second and a half that they need to watch for the range when they get to this these faster portions, that they'll still feel that slipstream.
I'm going to start to pay attention a little bit closer to this top three here, because it's impressive that Partanen hasn't been able to run away yet, that Reina and Reed have stayed right here in the slipstream. But where is the weakness out of Partanen? Where is the strength out of Reina? Or are they all kind of very, very similar? I can tell you, going up the hill right now, Juho Reina and Jacob Reed in the slipstream have closed it in from what was 0.8 now down to 0.6, looking to be about a half a second. So maybe some of it is just in the wing angle and the top speed of the car.
And remember, Pauli, who is chasing on our points leader, is not here today, only has 3 second places. So he hasn't been super consistent in just following him home. He needs this win to really try and cut into that. Having take pole position, he's already got 2 bonus points right there. He'll get another 2 bonus points if he can set the fastest lap of the race.
Through these sections here, it almost seems like Pauli maybe knows the track a little bit better, can kind of carry that speed a little bit, because what was a half second back up to 3/4 of a second, about 0.8 of a second. And on my timing and scoring, I just saw Ove Trengrade in the number 16 drop down to the end with a 0 mile an hour. That's a never a good sign.
Yeah, and Oros, you could see, had a real scary moment there. Managed to look like gather the car up before he wound up in the barrier. But you got to be so careful with those moments. I know many drivers who won't drive at 10/10 around here and just try to bring it home, survive, and get to the finish, and you can wind up with a good haul of points.
And, you know, speaking of, I know that we're focused on those top three here. This is another battle for what is, I believe, 14th place. This is Karthik Pai in that yellow number 10, being followed by Manuel Berra, Xavier Sanchez, also known as Heike 360, that second white car in line. You also have a few more after that, including Guardia. JD Rodriguez is trying to rebound back from that early spin, plus getting through that, call it interstate blockage on that opening lap. And so, yeah, 5 cars kind of all in a train right here, and Karthik Pai kind of hanging out the tail.
Remember all the battles he was in last week? I have a feeling he's in for more of that if this keeps up. Let's see if Barres is able to do anything. This is coming up to Swallowtail here. Very difficult turn in to that right-hander, and then slows up even more with the left-hander coming over a blind crest that eventually dumps you into the carousel. And a much better run through that sequence for Karthik Pai. He needed that because now comes the Dottinger Horror where he wants to get away.
Absolutely. And folks, let me tell you, Jacob Reed right now on this Dottinger Hoa is bump drafting Juho Raina in second place. So if they're trying to catch the lead, their intention is perfectly clear. Here's the shot. You see the green car pushing that root beer float down the straightaway, and they've been able to close it down to under 0.4 of a second between them and the leader now.
Just don't spill it, or it's going to be a right mess out there. Juho Raina managing to work with him. I wonder how he feels about that, if he's okay with Jacob Reed actually pushing him. Open wheel cars, not exactly known for that method. They don't exactly hook up easily, so you got to be so careful on these fast straightaways. A little wide there for Raina. That's going to open the door briefly. Jacob trying to cut back underneath through the Mercedes arena, but can't make it work.
I think that maybe Pauli, it might be a little bit faster, call it on the opening 3/4 of the track, and then that slipstream really comes into play down that ultimately hugely long straightaway. So definitely from what I see, a couple different downforce levels as this battle for what is 24th place on the racetrack is extremely good. I think this is Olenek going side by side with Boskus down into one.
Yeah, Boskus going to be outbraked into the hairpin. The hook provides P27 for Olenek. Next, he sets his sights on Juanmi Semenyo just in front of him. In fact, quite a bit of a train forming. I think you could say this goes all the way up to Sebastian in the 33 car.
I think Perez is finally trying to get this pass done on Pai here. Karthik keeps the car nice, tucked down to the apex, but it's going to be the acceleration phase going to Manuel in that number 12. White and blue themed car through the high-speed chicane, and now actually Karthik Pai is a little bit kind of off of that racing line. He's kind of on the back foot, so Xavier Sanchez is going to challenge him around the outside, and here comes Rodriguez. Pai is going to potentially lose 3 positions in a few corners.
Oh my goodness, it's a nightmare scenario. And Rodriguez, it's no wonder that he's making anxious moves here. Remember, he lost a lot at the start. He's trying to gather up any he can through the GP section before things get too tight. Unfortunately, his day's over as the car takes an absolute tumble. Pai will carry on, but I don't know what kind of state that car is going to be in.
Yeah, and you know, I'm going to armchair quarterback this one from race control. That was just too aggressive from Rodriguez. It was side by side in the brake zone, side by side in the entry of the corner, and ultimately Pai just had nowhere to go because of it.
Yeah, that chicane usually doesn't see drivers take it too wide through there, so I'm kind of with you. It seems maybe a little ambitious, but we'll see if we can run over that a little later if we get time. We're already down to 3 laps to go, which I think is only half this race, actually. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We're right about halfway, Joe.
Yeah, so, oh my goodness, you see Decker here having to take a bit of evasive action as DeTurk kind of slams the door shut late. He'll leave the opening on the inside down through the Swedish cross. I know Michael wants to just survive this, and he makes a bit of contact. Decker off into the gravel.
Definitely gave a little bit of an elbows out attitude right there going into that corner. Nick Thyssen was able to be the lucky recipient of Decker going off into the gravel there. So it's still up front here. Partanen, Raina, Reed, those are the top 3. Nothing has changed in the order. But if you ask me, I'm actually a little bit curious if Jacob Reed gets into that second spot as we take a look at, no, Hans Sommer, I think that is an iRacing glitch, especially with how low the cars are. Maybe it just grabbed it for some reason.
That was bizarre. I've never seen a car do that over fluke plots. I mean, I've seen lots of wrecks there, but never a car grab the ground. So,
Joe, you ever seen an aircraft carrier landing airplanes on it? It's very similar.
All right. So as Jacob Reed continues to hassle Raina, unable to get by, but I guess the consolation here is that Partanen's not been able to run away. So at least he has that. I know he wants through, but as long as Pauli doesn't break the gap between him, he knows he's still got a shot at the win here.
And that's kind of exactly what I was setting up, right? Partanen is the strongest car. He's been able to command from the front. Remember, he's the one that's pushing all of the air. So these two cars are literally in the slipstream, just kind of being carried along. That shows me that Pauli's got the ultimate pace. But what if Reed does get by Reina right here? Reed has just been literally underneath the rear wing of that number 11 car. What happens if he maybe gets a little bit of clean air? Can he actually close that gap up to the leader?
He's got that run here, and it looks like as close as he is behind, unless he's lifting up.
He's got a higher
hill.
downforce setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is going to make life even more annoying for him here, because he's going to have to get creative, or maybe just try and pass during the GP course.
And that's exactly what he's going to have to do. And this is Decker one more time involving himself in a heated battle. It's Gernot Friesche in front of him this time. You know, we've been highlighting this number 38 car. He's had a very good race so far, but this might be the toughest challenge he's found to get around today.
I mean, Don is literally rated last of the field in iRating, and yet he's running in 12th in top split in the Lotus 79s. And if you're not sure why that's important, well, this is literally the fastest of the fastest drivers who have made it into this split here in this car. And are facing off today. So for Don to suddenly show up for his first race ever and be challenging literally the driver with the most wins in this series, Gernot Friesche, my eyes have been opened.
I think it's awesome. And he got a little bit greedy, twice. And so I think if I'm going to take a guess here in the dark, Joe, I think that Decker might be a Nürburgring specialist, if you will, because how he's driving the racetrack is how you would drive a production car. You're not necessarily familiar with those 79s bouncing up over the curbs, but he doesn't care. He's making it work.
You make a good point. I didn't think about that maybe he jumped in for that reason. He's got to be careful, though, because this car can bite. It's so unique. The only other car on iRacing I can think to compare it to is the Nissan GTP in the IMSA Vintage Series. As he almost loses it again.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, right? If you're in, let's say, a GT4 car or a GT3 car or even a supercar, anything with fenders on it, right? You can attack this racetrack in a different style than what you can attack this racetrack in a low-slung formula car with heavy aerodynamics. And I just see Don Decker over here really attacking the racetrack, and I think that tells me, hey, you know what, maybe very familiar with this place, but maybe not so familiar with the car itself. I think Reed actually made the pass for P2.
Well, he did for a few hundred feet. Now, Yuho's getting the better top speed briefly. They're playing chicken at 174 miles an hour here. Who's braver coming into the braking zone before they even tap the brakes? So it's going to weave back and forth. They each going to have to give space coming through. Jacob has the bigger set of attachments, and that's going to get him second place.
All right, so now the race is on, and check this out. Togo Hisada and Kimmo Viekainen going side by side in that exact same part of the racetrack. Looks like Togo will come out with the 7th place on that one. So, but back to my curiosity here. Now that Reed is in front of Reina, can he go chase down Partanen? And like you were saying maybe a couple laps ago, Partanen's actually broke that slipstream because of this battle. 1.5 seconds, the gap now.
Gonna have to check to see if we've had a win for Jacob Reed before. This is a great chance to try and do so. And yeah, he is starting to pull away a little bit here. This would definitely be a part of the track where that higher downforce would come in handy.
Jump back here to Luke Raspudik here in the 19th place position. I think that's Karthik Pai and himself doing this battle. I wonder what happened. Did Karthik... Oh, yeah, Karthik got taken out there in that high-speed chicane. That's why he's so much further back here.
So in 16 starts, Jacob Reed has no wins yet in this series. So Raspudik side by side with Karthik Pai, who's going to get the better exit down into Valvoline and be able to close the door finally.
I think we should see that yellow camel-themed number 10 car start to pull it away just a little bit from his competitors. There is Jacob Reed. Remember how I said it was about 1.5 seconds once he got by Reina? Well, we're just ending the GP course. He's already cut it down a half second. Now only 1 second between Pauli Partanen and Jacob Reed.
So fastest lap right now goes to, I believe, Partonen at a 7:33.2. But Jacob Reed last lap was a 7:34.1. So although was battling during that, so it sounds much slower. But like you said, he's gaining.
Well, and I want to interrupt you because Ross Banfield has closed it in from 3.5 seconds down to 2.5 seconds from third to fourth, and his last lap time is 7:33.6. That puts him on pace with Partonen. So I think that, yeah, call it a lap and 3/4 here to go, which is a lot of racing, but things can definitely close up in that accordion.
This is up over Flugplatz here with Jacob Reed. Thankfully, no problems for him. Foot all the way to the floor through that section. This car didn't actually race at the Nürburgring. It was just a couple years earlier that they finally switched away, unfortunately, due to the big accident for Niki Lauda. We'll go through that portion a little bit later on here as they break for Ehrenberg. And then this is called down through the foxhole and compression through this weaving section. They'll hit at the bottom of the hill, and it does what it says on the tin. You'll see the car absolutely press into the ground.
I love this section. Like, it's so much fun driving down the hill. Right about here is where I always lose control and end up in a guardrail, Joe.
Yeah, I never liked that corner. I don't think it really has a name, but it's going into a section called Oudenauer Forest. That's the other wild thing about this track. It's not that every corner has names. They have parts that have names rather than corners that have names.
I always thought, growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, I have Seattle International Raceways or Pacific Raceways. It goes through a couple different names, but the way that racetrack is designed, it falls off the back of the hill into the forest. It really feels a lot like the Nürburgring, except it's about 14 miles shorter than this version.
A lot easier to memorize, I imagine.
Yeah,
but, back to Jacob Reed here, 0.8 of a second, still continuing to close. So we'll see it maybe ebb and flow a little bit because you will get drivers who are better on certain parts of the track in comparison to others.
And Pauli Partonen is a very savvy competitor in these Lotus 79s. You got to remember how many races he's won. He knows what it takes to win a race. So we do see Jacob Reed closing that gap, right? He's already closed it in 1 full second from the beginning of this lap since he got into second place. And I expect him to close it in right on that rear wing, just like how he was chasing Juho Raina. But does Pauli Partonen have that speed down the straightaway where it can essentially just stiff-arm Jacob Reed, just like a little kid trying to take your food away? You just stick your hand out there and he can't reach you anymore.
That sounds like you're speaking from experience or something here. And another one for Summer. Wasn't that the same car as before?
Yeah, I wonder if that was the same replay as before or if that was a second incident. Michael de Turk said the cars run very, very low here, and people obviously do custom setups. I wonder how low you can get it.
You're right. That was the same replay. So good catch on that. So we're just getting a little bit of a better angle. All right, Jacob Reed is there. You talked about the number of wins that Pauli has. He is third on the all-time list of wins at 33. He's about 6 away from Nuno Moreira, who we haven't seen for many years now, actually, to try and get up to second. So very close. He wants every win he can get, but he'll have to deny a first-timer in Jacob Reed if he's going to do that.
And we're going to see, right? Once we get out of this Nordschleife section here in call it another minute, maybe minute and a half, I think this is one of the coolest sections of this racetrack. And if you know the Nürburgring, everybody has probably seen the Porsche, the Roof Yellowbird video, always sliding its way through. And when it slides its way down the hill through this section, oh man, some really cool helicopter shots in that video.
Yeah, really spectacular to watch. Also impressive considering that was while sharing the track with motorcycles too. So there's some added pressure for you while you're in that car. Jacob Reed backing off just a little bit now from Pauli Partonen as we watch from on board. The Finnish driver gives him about half a second difference. But remember, as soon as they get up to the Dottinger Hoa, he'll be sucked right back into him.
Jump up and over these little bouncies here and undulations in the track. And I mean, it is so fast, 140 miles an hour on the entry speed. And a lot of these corners that we're riding on board through the little mini carousel, it was actually Pauli that slipped up just a little bit. I think it's that downforce level of Jacob Reed really allowing him to carry the rolling speed through the apex of the corners. He's going to do the same thing right here. Close it in on Pauli Partonen as much as he can. But let's see if the draft can actually vault his way by.
He's got a good run. He pops his nose out, gets side by side, but he starts to hit that wall of air, and it evens out. So Jacob Reed briefly led once again, but last time this happened, he was able to effect the pass fully. Partonen with a nose slightly ahead. This is up to Antonius Beach. This little kink left hand easily flat out in these cars, but now into Tiergarten. This is where it gets scary once again, side by side, chopping back and forth. Partonen will retain the lead.
So what we saw right there, I firmly believe these two are on the same setup, right? The same exact top speed once Reed was out into that clean air, and he's going to prove it again right here. He's going to pull up alongside, but then once we get to that top speed, they are just gosh dang dead even. Who's deeper on the brakes into turn number one? Pauli, very, very brave. Here comes Jacob Reed with better mechanical grip off the corner.
Whew, cuts back underneath. Oh, great move here. He's got the inside line. He takes it away. Partonen can't do anything to defend until he gets to the next right-hander, leading out of the Mercedes arena. But this could open the door for that over-under once again. Jacob Reed cannot get the launch. It was a valiant effort, but excellent defense there from the four.
So let's play a little bit of predictive chess here, Joe. You think we're going to see Jacob Reed force the issue anywhere through the Nordschleife? Or are we going to see that braking duel off of the Dottinger Hoa when they're literally neck and neck on the final lap?
Oh, man, that's a hard one, because I feel like if it was me, I would try to keep the pressure on if you're Jacob Reed. See if you can get a mistake out of Pauli, force him to crack, and then if that doesn't work, go for that pass. But I don't know if I'd try to stick my nose in, just try and keep laying on that pressure.
Agreed. I think that's probably the best strategy. Oh, it looks like a problem just happened there in turn number one around Ryan Turquette. I think I see Lucas Wegner in the number 36 might have had that problem down there in turn number one. One other thing I was going to point out real fast here, that last lap out of both Reed and Partonen, I mean, Jacob Reed, a 7-minute 30. That is 3 seconds faster than anybody else.
Whew. Also, sorry about the little bit of Vaseline on the lens. Couldn't quite make out what was happening in that accident as we continue to watch battle in the mid-pack here, being led by Ryan Turcotte. Up 14 for both him and Mark Sebastian as they come down into the Dunlop hairpin. At 28, trying his best to leave them behind.
Another thing I was just noticing in sim, now it's not sunset by any means, but the sun is producing some interesting glaring shadows in some of these areas. Ooh. And oh my goodness, talk about keeping your hands on the wheel. Seems like Wegner was able to save that one.
Yeah, that was a scary moment for sure, as Boscus snuck by in the process up into that 24th position. He wanted that one. Oh, what happened to Don Decker? Don't tell me he's had a problem here. Oh, car slides out. Full 360 out of the wall. Oh, and he damages the front wing in the process.
Yeah, he does do that, but I've looked back on my screen. I don't see any actual damage on the front wing of Decker's car, so he might have been able to get away with it. Well, it was a great race. I think he maybe is learning a little bit about these 79s.
So Ross Banfield is able to get within 1.3 seconds of Juho Rainen. So that might be a battle. Look at how close Reed is coming through Audenauer Forest as they exit out of that portion. It's then into Metzgefeld. This is where it'll start to head steeply downhill from here on out. But it's a very tight entry into this corner. You can see a kinked entry into there before you slam the brakes and then watch them crest and then plunge.
Yeah, this is a series of, call it right-hand turns here, and then you start to continue down the hill. And Joe, you know this way better than I do. Isn't this coming up to hit, miss, hit? I don't even know which one to hit or which one to miss.
Miss, hit, miss is what it's called.
There you go.
And it's just as scary in real life. I can tell you, we got to ride on board a BMW when I came, and we definitely shelled out for the ring taxi. It's a bit expensive, but it's worth every penny. I've got the video actually saved from it. I'm really glad we splurged for that. But coming up through X-Mula. These guys going a lot faster than that BMW did. Oh, a poor exit, though, from Jacob.
Yeah, he did struggle a little bit, but I think crucially this next uphill right-hander is the one that's a little bit more important. Really drive the car into the track there. You see a little bit of that natural camber, and crucially, there he goes. Did get that nice exit. So what he lost and kind of call it the corner before, because this one is such a long straightaway, he should be able to reel it back in.
Yep, he's got that long flat-out portion here coming up through Kesselchen. It includes that run through Bravery. He's going to feel the dirty air coming off that car, but he'll keep his foot to the floor, it sounds like. No lifting from that green number 1. He's getting so close to the back of him. He gives a little bit of a look, but decides to back out of it.
I'm trying to think if there's maybe any other areas on this racetrack that Jacob Reed could kind of force his way into an opportunity, and here's one of them. Actually, he was almost up alongside there in the carousel. Pauli Parchinen thankfully didn't get spit out up over the top, but that was a pretty close moment.
So this is coming up to one of the highest points, Hedwig Heights here at the top of the circuit, and then they'll start to go back down just a little bit. Really, the lowest part was down there through that drop I was talking about a little bit earlier. Ooh, things get a little bit sketchy there for a moment for Partanen through Vipperman. That's a very bumpy part of the circuit.
And even in that corner afterwards, he kind of caught the rear end of the car 2 or maybe even 3 times. So if you think that Pauli Partanen is not feeling any heat, he is definitely feeling the anxiety in that rearview mirror from Jacob Reed, just constantly right there looking over the shoulder saying, hey, you better get this brake point right. Hey, you better get this apex right, because if you don't, I'm going to pass you.
What's going to happen when they get to the Dottinger Hoa Flansgarden? Now coming up over the rise, another part where the cars get very light here. And then this is through the S's as the drivers try their best to keep their foot flat to the floor. It really banks back and forth through that section. The Beloff S, it's called, after, for a long time, the man who had the lap record around the Nordschleife before Porsche came in and smashed that one. He gets so close coming up behind him. He almost has to back off to time this.
That was exactly what he did that last lap as well, and I think that he's in a perfect position, call it about 5, maybe 7 car lengths behind Pauli Partanen. Pauli's probably going to do the dragon, the serpentine, the snake, whatever you want to call it, to try to break the slipstream, but here comes Jacob Reed in the tow, trying to time the move.
Doing his best to try and keep him behind, but there's little he can do in this section. Last lap, run to the line, essentially just one real braking event from here, and he's going to get side by side Jacob Reed. He's going to challenge him once again. I doubt he'll back out of this game of chicken this time as they come up to the braking zone of Tiergarten. He's going to have the inside of the first apex, but he's not brave enough. Round the outside. Now it's a run to the line, but he does not get the exit. Partanen will survive as he takes his first win of the season, second win of the season here at the Nürburgring.
That was some driving out of Pauli Partanen right there. I mean, axle to axle, nose cone to nose cone going into that braking zone. Juho Rainer finishes in 3rd place, rounding out that podium. But I think that was all the race that we've been waiting for out of Pauli Partanen this year. I know that you've said this is the 2nd race he's won this season, but I think he definitely earned that one today.
Oh, and he wanted it badly. Question is, no, he did not get the bonus points for fastest lap. Reed beat him to it, so it won't be a perfect score. 2 points left on the table. Could it be important in the end? As is this Karthik Pai in a battle? No, excuse me, that's Dan Decker. What is he doing? He's missing a wheel.
You know, I watched a good meme video, Joe, the other day of when people retire in endurance races. This reminds me of the Cadillac. They always drive it back to the pits. It doesn't matter how many wheels are on it. They're going to get it back there.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is very Gilles Villeneuve. He infamously did that for Ferrari, so it's fitting with the livery on this car. And he's going to lose the position, it looks like, as Cermeño just beat him to the line.
Less weight, less rolling resistance. The engineers will understand why.
Are you sure that's less rolling resistance? Because I'm pretty sure the scraping metal might have something to say about that.
Now, less rolling resistance, more friction.
Okay. I get you. Details. Pushes glasses up, actually.
Strix.
All right, let's go through the finishing order today as the last of the cars get to the line. It is Pauli Partsinen who takes the win. He'll beat Jacob Reed by just over a tenth of a second. Juho Räinä will stay in that third position as Ross Banfield was not able to catch him. He'll finish fourth. Oye Zamaloa will finish P5 as Mikko Leino will settle for sixth. Toga Hisada gets a seventh today, and Kimmo Viekainen in some real action there finished in P8. Nick Tisson recovered from his early mistake to at least finish ninth. And what do you know? Michael DeTurk, I'm going to say, did not wreck as he gets a top 10.
Yeah, one of our biggest movers is well up there into that 10th place. Gernot Friesche hung on to 11th place back here. Olivier Verhagen in 12th. Manuel Perez finishing in 13th. Xavier Sanchez finishing exactly where he started back here in 14th. Karthik Pai, a little bit of an up and down day to finish in 15th. Ricardo Ruiz in 16th. Bjorn Ackerman, always great to see him out here in the Unicorn Machine, finishing in 17th. And then comes our biggest mover, I believe, Mark Oras in the number 23, up 13 positions, finishing 18th. Christoph Olenjik back here in 19th, and Ryan Turcotte in 20th.
Mark Sebastian in 21st was followed by Peter Konieczny in 22nd. Lucas Wegner in 23rd. Juanmi Semenyo will be P24 ahead of Don Decker. And yeah, he didn't finish as high as he qualified, but again, impressed with his speed today. Hope he comes back. Timothy Reed 26 and John Stevens 27th. Last driver to complete all 5 laps will be Christopher Pilatek, so he did get away with that little bit of contact. Rasputik was 29th and Boskis was 30th, Joey.
And unfortunately, everybody else here had problems on the racetrack, including Guardia Rodriguez, who found himself in several incidents. Trengrade, Green, Zakowski, Summer, Tolman, and Parigi. I think it's impressive to have a full split out here. I want to reiterate 113 entries. We had 3 full splits today of Lotus 79 racing.
Amazing stuff. An amazing win from Pauli Partsinen, who's joined us. Pauli, congratulations. You come to the last lap knowing you need these points with your main championship rival not here today, and suddenly Jacob Reed is in your mirrors. What's going through your head then?
Yeah, I don't really know. I was actually a bit nervous because I know Jacob has a super good speed. He had some top speed and he was still able to be faster than me on the slow section. So I was sure that it will be the last corner where it's decided. So I tried to play it smart. I don't think I really played that smart, but I was able to win it anyway. So what a race and what a finish. That was awesome.
Yeah, how far did you go for the downforce? Because we know a lot of drivers would like to try and trim it out, but it's always a gamble here at the Nürburgring trying to take the wing away.
Yeah, I think I added few clicks more than my community said, but I don't really know, did it really make the car faster? I'm not sure, but yeah, I think I had few clicks less than Jacob. He had nice speed on the straight and super speed on the corners too, so I think he was the better driver today, but racing is hard and overtaking is hard, so it's not always who's the fastest guy on the road.
Speaking of which, unfortunately, you weren't the fastest, so you didn't take the 2 bonus points for fastest lap. Are you worried at all with how quick Henkel has been this season? Is it something where you're counting every single point?
No, I'm not really counting. I know Henkel is much faster and much better driver than me right now at Lotus, so I'm just trying to win the races I can. And yeah, I have only one race before this, and back then it was a bit of a mistake from Henkel, so I was a bit lucky there. But I just love the racing, and having so much good drivers and fast drivers I think that's the most important and fantastic part. It's not fun if you win every race easily. It's fun when you have nice battles, and even if you are P2, it's still great race if you had some battles with the P1. So I think it's the best this way, and I really hope we see Henkel next week. I miss him.
Oh, I can tell you appreciate every win. This is your 34th. Congratulations. Before you go, anybody you want to thank or loved ones that you want to let know you survived this time?
Yeah, well, I just want to say that last corner, the braking, so like I break it way later than I have ever break it there, and it was so close that I missed the apex completely. So I was lucky, and actually, if you check the replay very closely, I have small lift in the air when I was braking there. So I was a bit lucky that I win today. And about thanks, Juho, Raina, thank you. We had some chats this week together. We had some fun. Doing the qualification laps and comparing our laps, so that was fun. And Kimmo and Michael, we did races together this week, super fun. And thanks to my wife, she has watched every broadcast and she watched this one also. So thanks to her also, and thank you guys, you are the best. Bye.
That was lovely from Pauli Partsinen, our winner today. Looks like nobody else has showed up to have a chat with us. I'm sure they need to decompress after tackling this place, so we'll let them go do that as we say thank you to the community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here. And also thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next track going to be a little bit more straightforward, although unique. Zandvoort will be Sunday, February 9th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That's for this series. But up next, overall on the channel, we've got the DCRA going to Circuit of the Americas. So all the acronyms that you could want. And then, of course, we'll be back for Sim Racing Republic, a new series showing up here on the channel a little bit later on in the week. Be sure to check out all of our other broadcasts that we've got listed here. Though, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.